And the money just keeps flowing. One of the things that I've spoken on in the past is the way in which the Biden administration will tap into the private sector whenever they need money for whatever projects they may have that fall outside of the yearly national budget. But most importantly to note, private sector money helps them bypass the headache of needing to pass a bill through Congress in order to have access to the money that they need. And because this money is coming from the private sector, it grants the Biden administration the ability to do whatever they want with the money because technically it isn't government spending, thereby eliminating annoying and endless debates over how the money should be spent, who it should be spent on, and whether or not this spending is legal or constitutional. Because remember, this is private sector money. And the private sector can do whatever they want with their money the same way that you, the listener, can do whatever you want with your money. Tapping into the private sector is the government's number one way of bypassing all of the congressional hurdles that comes with gaining access to funds. So remember that the next time congressional and presidential candidates are tap dancing around why they can't do anything specifically for the Black community like they do for everyone else, yet still expect your votes. Now, let's get into this article on how Kamala Harris was able to tap into close to $1 billion to create economic empowerment for the people of Central America, yet
I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No.
Vice President Kamala Harris announced $950 million in contributions from companies including Target and Nestle aimed at addressing poverty and violence that is driving migration from Central America. Target has promised to boost spending in the region by $300 million over a decade and increase the use of vendors from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. Nestle has said it will support 7,500 coffee producers and strengthen its supply chains, the White House said in a statement Monday. Milcom International Cellular pledged to invest an additional $350 million by 2025 to expand mobile and broadband networks, while Columbia Sportswear has promised to purchase $200 million in products, creating 6,900 jobs in the region over the next 5 years. President Joe Biden chose Harris in 2021 as his point person to address the root cause of migration from Central America. Historic number of border crossings have dogged Biden politically since he was inaugurated, and the three Central American countries have traditionally been a major source of migrants. Harris has focused her efforts on addressing the problems that force migrants to leave their countries, including lack of economic opportunity, violence, and corruption, all of the same things that the Black community is dealing with in every major metropolitan city in this country. Yet no funds for you, but I digress. People generally do not want to leave home, and when they do, it is because they are either fleeing some harm or because staying home will mean that they cannot satisfy the basic needs of their family and themselves, as if that's not happening here in the States. But once again, I digress. Pardon the interruptions. Harris said Monday during the announcement. Harris launched an initiative called Partnership for Central America to marshal private sector support for the region aimed at creating more economic activity and jobs. The $950 million announced Monday pushes the overall total to more than $4.2 billion across 47 companies and organizations. The U.S. has seen a 71% decline in encounters since August of 2021 from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras at the southwest border, a senior administration officer told reporters. Now, I want to stop right there on this paragraph because this perfectly highlights the power of targeted funding and investment. Since August of 2021, a total of $4.2 billion has been pledged specifically to go to El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. And with the specific targeting of those countries came a 71% decline in people from those countries coming into the U.S. Now, my point for highlighting this is to show that specific and targeted investment works. So once again, remember this the next time these presidential and congressional hopefuls attempt to put Black Americans in the Black black and brown, people of color, minorities, and marginalized group box. Because when they do that, by way of rising tides lift all ship policies, they are more than aware of the fact that the impact that those policies will have on Black America is little to nothing. And if you don't believe me, let's rewatch the Kamala Harris video that I played for you earlier, but in its entirety. When watching this, you will quickly see that she herself doesn't even believe what she's saying, because she knows that rising tides policies do little to nothing to help Black Americans.
And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, Black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of Black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects Black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit Black children, Black families, Black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit Black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No, because whatever benefits that Black family will benefit that community and society as a whole and the country, right?
Whatever benefits Black America will benefit society, and it will benefit that community, and will benefit the country as a whole, I guess, right? You see, even she knows good and well that the words coming out of her mouth is BS, because she knows that what she's proposing hasn't worked yet, and she's more than aware of that. Targeted funding and targeted policies is what works, as you clearly saw based on the article that I just read. And if these Democrats can find a way to do this for people outside of the country, then they can figure out a way to do it for U.S. citizens here in their own country. And if they can't figure that out, then there is no reason for them to get our votes. And with all that being said, that does it for today's video. So please make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button to keep you notified whenever I release a new video. All social media links will be pinned in the comment section below. But it also serves as an insurance plan for myself, so in case YouTube ever gives me the axe, I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. And last but certainly not least, for those of you who have a love and appreciation for the work that I put in on this channel, the #1 way you can show your support is through Patreon. For only $3 a month, that will help put me in position to take TD Hip Hop Media off of YouTube. Remember, the goal is not to grow big on YouTube, but to grow independent of YouTube. And for those of you who have issues with joining Patreon, you can also hit the join button that's next to the subscribe button, and that way you can become an official channel member for as little as $3 a month as well. And lastly, if you haven't already, please make sure you join the emailing list. There is no way that I can go independent of YouTube if I cannot take the audience with me. And a link to that will be pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you for your time, and until the next video, peace.